Good afternoon. I'm Dara Bunjon. I'm the food enthusiast here at J More Living. I'm a food writer, food stylist, PR maven, and a frustrated baker. Those of you joining us live, drop your comments and questions for my guest or myself into the comment box, and you'll see me check from time to time. This week's guest is Raul Louis, or some people say El Senor Raul, learning how to cook and perfect his birria recipe while in the Birrieria program. Raul's father introduced birria to Los Angeles. In the early 70s, Raul's family made and sold traditional birria de chivo from their home. Now, Raul is a proud owner of the restaurants and that carry, proud owner of restaurants that carry his father's nickname, Chalio's. You might remember the episode on No Reservations when Anthony Bourdain filmed a segment at Chalio's. What started in the family home has grown to multiple restaurants in California and in Texas. Raul is at the forefront of what is Cal-Mex cooking. Let's bring in Raul.
Hello, hi.
Hi. Thank you for being on the show. I always kick off with what's on your plate today? Other than doing this show, what are you doing?
Today we're actually working on, we're trying to promote and put out there. There's a certain taco that we're working on. It's called the quesachiva taco. And what that is, most people are aware of what a quesadilla taco. It's a beef taco. But one of the best hidden secrets was there's actually its counterpart, which is goat. It's chivo. And most people aren't aware of it. It's like a hidden item on the menu. Most people aren't aware of it, so we're trying to make them aware of that. It's out there. It's a different taste profile, and that's what we're working on, making sure that we're trying to promote that and get that out there so people can try it out.
Okay, so there's one that you mentioned, and then there's the chivo,
Yeah,
which is the goat.
right.
Now, the chivo, the beef birria. Let's explain what birria is. Not, I'll let you explain what
Okay.
birria
So
is.
traditional birria is it's goat or lamb, and they cook it underground in pot in underground in the pit, and then they would serve it using a broth, a tomato based broth. Certain regions use just the regular the broth itself, and it's not spicy at all. Got very popular with the beef birria tacos. That's when it got national recognition, but it's been very well known within the Hispanic community, especially those of Mexican descent. That's a special dish that was made for only special occasions, for baptisms, weddings, quinceañeras, and it was only served for those occasions. So when you talk to somebody that's from Mexican descent and you ask them birria, or you're having a party, that they know it's automatic. That's an automatic dish that was served at those events. So it's a very rich and cultural historical value dish that's been around for, I want to say, at least 500 years, but not known to the general public. What got its notoriety or got known across the country is for the birria tacos, which is an offshoot of it. There's so much fusion going on, all this creativity going on across the country, and birria was one of those that caused the phenomenon across the country. But one of the less known was the chivo, which is the goat, and that's what I do. That's what I've been doing. Our family's been doing for over 50 years here in LA and the United States.
Yeah. Your family, your father came to the U.S. in the Restaurateur program that the U.S. had set up during 1940. I'm not saying it was 19. It started in 1947. The program as to bring in laborers as our men were off to war, and so it was in the farms and on the railroad. And your father came up, I think, with the intention to go back to Mexico and set up a restaurant. Um, but isn't there a story that when asked what he does, that he became a chef, that he made the food that went out in the fields to feed the immigrants?
Right. Yeah. So the Bracero program was a program that was designed to bring workers in from Mexico in the 40s, 50s, and 60s so they can supplement work in the farms. And when he was out there, there was a line and they're vetting the different people. And they asked, does anyone know how to cook? they had all these people who were working, but they weren't eating. So they said, well, we need somebody who can cook their food so they can eat. And they asked if anybody how to cook. Raised his hand up and says, "Oh, I'm a birriero." Well, they didn't know what it meant, but all the migrants knew what it was, and it was someone who made birria, which is a goat and lamb, something they were used to. So people clung to it because it was something that reminded them of their past and where they came from. So while he was there, he was taken under his wing by a chef, and the chef saw the way he cooked. He says, "Wait a minute, you got to change some stuff on it because you got to make it more easy on the eyes so people can enjoy it." So he added some spices and marinade, and that's how our recipe it got twisted or evolved from the help of that one chef that I don't know what his name is, but can't give him credit because I don't know who he is. So that's how Bida got started here in the
Right,
U.S.
right. If I were describing it, birria is like a meat stew, um, in a sense. It's you use whole goats and portions thereof, um, but it comes with its own consomme or
Right.
broth.
So
Um, Go ahead.
so what happens is when they cook the Bida, traditionally it was cooked underground in the pit, and they would when it would cook, you get all these droppings from the meat when it was getting cooked. That became the broth. So that broth, you'd get it and add tomato and spices to it, and you put it over. It is like a stew. It's a mixture of a stew, barbecue because it takes about 10 hours to cook. Uh, and it's you can compare it kind of like the Hawaiians have Kahlua pig where they cook it underground and stuff, or they spit the pig. Similar thing. It's you can put a broth in. It doesn't need to have a broth. In some places they ask for the broth on the side. So think of it like it could be a stew or it could just be a regular dish, but it's lamb and goat. That's the traditional way of eating birria.
The That style of cooking comes from the Jalisco area of Mexico, which is also known for mariachi bands, tequila, bull riding, uh, ranchera, which is Mexican music. I'm just trying
Right.
to add some
Yeah.
texture to this. And so let's take the history. Your father starts cooking the birria from the house for special occasions. And the people would come sit in your backyard. And then the neighbors called because they saw all the smoke going up, and the
Yeah.
police would come. Why don't you tell that story? And I think there was another one about goats going into your house. Tell those
Right. So
stories.
so the way you traditionally cook it, it's firewood. You got to put firewood and you can stay up all night and you put the firewood and you cook it. When we're doing that, there was the smoke that was emitting into the air. The neighbors, this was in the 1970s. The neighbors thought that there was a fire, so they called the fire department. Fire department comes in with their hoses ready to turn off fire. It was us cooking birria. They didn't know what it was. No one had done that before. I guess the migrant population was starting to explode in LA, and we were cooking stuff the way we knew how, and not in the traditional way. So that was one of the stories. They came out. It was funny. Firemen were there and they left. Uh, Another great story was so when you get the coat and the the carcasses, it's like the whole pieces. So we cut them up in big chunks so we can serve them that way. So you can get the ribs and then the back ribs. Um, we're carrying those into our house. We sold out of our house. As we're carrying them, they're wrapped in butcher paper. As we're walking into the house, the neighbors see that. They say something's going on here. We're walking in like five, six at the time, different carcasses, and when we walked in, they called the cops. They thought that we were bringing in dead bodies into the house. So the police came and they swarmed the whole entire block. They blocked it off, came inside, guns drawn. Where's the bodies at? Where's the bodies at? We showed them the carcasses and they were like, whoa, they started laughing. We were laughing. We were scared actually at the time, but now you look back in retrospect, it was funny, but not so funny at the time.
Right. Um, you are, just to let people know that'll be coming up in the notes, that you are doing a YouTube series called Birria World, which is really fun and interesting and insightful into the sort of the history and the culture of your people, and want people to tune into that. That's Birria World, BIRRIAWORLD. Um, Anthony Bourdain came, I think it was 2010,
Right.
into your East LA location. Did you have two at that time, or did you only have
I think
one?
we had no, we had. I think we grew up to six. Right now we're down to three. We had six locations at the time when he came by. I think there might have been at least four locations when he visited us back in that time frame.
I can't begin to imagine what the impact was after that show aired. What was it like?
The impact, it was not so much. We started getting in different ethnicities into the restaurant, trying it out, because Anthony Bourdain gave his stamp of approval, and he discussed what the food meant to our culture. So I remember this one occasion there was these Australians that came in. If you know Australia, they're known for the lamb and their mutton that they produce and export all over the world. So they came in to try it out because they saw the show, and they mentioned they saw it on the plane when they were flying into the U.S. So we that I think he opened up or pulled down the wall, so to speak, so people could come in from other ethnic groups to try the different dish, and it opened up Mexican food. At the time, Mexican food was starting to become more popular. Other groups of people were starting to try it out, and I think he helped initiate that by providing that show to his viewers.
Right. The You say that your family, your restaurant was the first one to introduce birria, chivo, to LA. There is another restaurant that says the same thing, and that is Birria Jalisco.
Jalisco,
Now,
yes.
yes, it reminds me, in Philadelphia, there's sort of a little thing between Pat's and Geno's cheesesteak.
Hmm.
I think they're on opposite corners. Now, the only difference between those, one chops the steak and one cooks sliced steak. But beyond that, there's no difference. But there are differences. You two have actually co-produced um, a, a movie. Um, I'm just looking for the notes because
Be,
there's a million of them
Birria Chronicles. It's called the Birria Chronicles.
on YouTube.
Right,
So people might want to read. And you finally sat down. Up until that time, you never tasted each other's birria.
right,
And what that brought out is every home has its own spices, its own way of cooking something. And whereas Pat and Geno's, there was a very fine line. There was very little difference. There were differences between the two. Am I correct?
yes, yes,
And
absolutely.
can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, so we both claimed we were the first, and what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's kind of that there's no real definite answer, and I'll explain that. So what happened was we started selling food out of our house in the '70s, and that was very acceptable in Mexico. They have these places people open up their houses, and they're called cenudurias, and that's basically, if you ever seen the logo where it says "Mi casa es tu casa," I've heard that saying. That
Right.
that was created because people would invite you into their homes, and you'd be able to eat in their homes. At night, then they will convert it into a restaurant. So that's the concept we had. We sold it out of our house in the '70s. They had a brick and mortar. So I mean, technically, who was first? I mean, we're both selling food at the same time. We both had a customer base that we were serving that special dish to. There is subtle differences in the meat. There's spices, and the reason being is that I tell people that in different regions you have access to certain herbs and spices, and other areas you don't. So that's where you get the taste profile differences in different birrias that you might try in different locations. So if you try a birria in Chicago, maybe they don't have access to certain spices that we have here. We're here in California, the Central Valley, there's all the fresh vegetables. By the time they get to certain areas, and the taste profile changes. So that's the difference between us and them. And also, they managed to sell only one product, and that was birria. We evolved and started creating, or became part of, what's called the California Mex now. And like people ask me, what is California Mex? Well, I got my twist in. My theory is California Mexicans. We had this migration of many restaurants coming into Los Angeles. I mean, many people coming into Los Angeles from different states, different regions, different parts of Latin America, Central America, South America. These two couples would get married, and now you had two different people. They had two different foods they wanted to eat, so they would mix those foods and they would fusion them. So now you had somebody, for example, somebody from Jalisco and somebody from Puebla. Now the husband and wife had to create a dish they can both eat, so there was a fusion, and that's what I think happened in California. That's what I think is referred to as California Mex, because you have these people that were coming together and they're creating new dishes. So when the employees would come and work for us, they would cook their lunches for themselves, and I would say, "Wow, what is that?" We would taste it. That was so good. We would put it in our menu. So our menu began to evolve and change, where Jalisco's never did. So we became part of the California Mex movement. They stick to traditional, which they do very well. And after being able to taste their birria, I was able to understand that there's subtle differences. They're not the same, and I don't think there's any tool that ever tastes the same. But we both have our different points or different taste profiles that we like to emphasize.
Right. And what dishes you're now in? Is it Fort Worth, Texas? You have a
Fort Worth, Texas.
Chalio's there. Fort
Right.
Worth, Texas. How have they accepted California Max? Is that
You know, it,
accepted there?
it's been tough. Sometimes you have people, because you're so used to a certain style of food, and you say 90% of people are interested in Tex-Mex, and you come in with a different style. I said, this is my version of, for example, chili verde, and they're used to using different spices. So at first it was kind of tough. People were coming in and saying, you know what, no, this isn't good food. We don't like it. I said, wait a minute, it's great food. So it took us about maybe 5 years to get to adjust. And I tell people, we had to recalibrate their palates to California Mix, and now it's being accepted. You get more people moving from different parts of the country, different countries themselves, and they're accepting it. But at first, it was very challenging, and at times, you felt like throwing in the hat, like, oh, I can't believe they don't like it. They don't like our food. What's going on? This is the greatest food, in my opinion, because it's mom's cooking. Nobody cooks better than everybody's mom is the best cook, best chef. So we were using
Right.
those scratch kitchen recipes that we knew were very very well received, especially in the Los Angeles area, where there was this melting pot of different Hispanics, Latinos from different parts of the country, from Central America, South America, even Mexico itself. So it was challenging at first, but we finally were able to turn the corner, and we recalibrated. I would like to think that we recalibrated their palates to accept that type of food.
And, it's always been with the immigrant population that they bring their food, their culture into an area. And when beef birria and the food trucks really escalated uh, everything, and people became aware of birria, and it grew. And of course, it's East Coast. I told you I went yesterday and I had some birria. Uh, that other groups, as you're saying. So now there's birria ramen, there's
Right,
birria pizza,
right.
there is a combination of cultures, and it just underlines what you have said in bringing the restaurant and growing the restaurant. Were there any bumps in the road? I'm sure there were, but anything that stands out to you that you can give advice to other people if
No,
they're
there's
looking?
there's there's several. Mistakes will always be made, and that's what you have to. Hopefully, you learn from them and you move forward. The BDM movement was actually a great thing for us, because it brought it to the forefront. We would have never been able to create that kind of a marketing buzz to make people aware of what BDM was. So now I take it upon myself to introduce them to what the traditional BDM is, which is the chivo. And there's a history behind it. There's history of where it came from, what it was used for, so I can give people a sense of what the dish means to us, so that when they have it, it's readily available. But I'm very grateful that all these different locations, different other ethnicities are bringing out
Right.
birria, and it just brings us to the forefront, and we're able to tell our story, and hopefully attract people, have them try it out. It's actually, in my opinion, one of the better tasting. It's better, not better. I shouldn't say better. It's good because beef is good, but there's more taste profiles when you have the goat and the lamb, and it's probably one of the most consumed meats across the world. If you look around, most people, most countries, they eat the goat and the lamb.
Right. And it's halal, and and the beef is more cost effective as opposed to the chiva, to the goat. Um, you have a philosophy you try to instill with everybody in the restaurants that you should think every meal is for loved ones. That's how you should treat the meal. And what a great concept. It's like you're so, this isn't for a stranger in the restaurant. Think of it, you're serving your grandmother or whatever. So I think it's a great philosophy. What does scratch cooking mean to you?
What is? I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. What is?
Scratch cooking.
So scratch cooking is you're cooking stuff from fresh stuff. So you get to cook, and it's basically like a homemade meal. Think of being home and your mom makes, the basic, some of the most basic, eggs, fried eggs. That's scratch. So in a restaurant, it's very easy now for people who don't want to, or they want to circumvent certain costs, labor costs, because cooking Mexican food is very laborious. It could be expensive. So scratch cooking is you're making stuff as you would in a home. So when you visit Chalio's, you're going to be eating food that you would eat if you were to visit someone's house. If someone invited you to their home, that's the type of food you're going to get. It's home cooking, and that's what the scratch kitchen is: stuff with fresh products, fresh ingredients, and it's a whole different ballgame, different taste profiles, and that's where the California mix comes in as well, because most of these people, especially if you were to visit LA now, there's so much street vending going on, and all that is people cooking foods that they cook out of their homes, but now they're doing it in the streets. So it's very exciting, very, very great times to try the different foods. And I tell people that LA has probably one of the best Mexican food styles. If you were to visit different parts of the country, you definitely have to try to go to LA and try the different foods. You're going to get different taste profiles. Some you might not enjoy as much as others, but you're going to get your mouth is going to explode with all these different flavors.
I think that me being the type of person, I always want to experience a new flavor, something new, to make the taste bud dance. I want to just bring people up to date. These links are coming up. The Instagram is Birria Chalio TX.
Right.
Your Facebook is Chalio Seminary, and the website is Birria uh, BirrioChalios.com.
Correct.
Birria Cheria.
It's
Okay.
okay. You can roll
It's
those
coming
R's.
up. It's
It's
coming
coming.
up. Okay, look, I'm finally clear. I was looking on the screen. I was blurred the whole time. It's like a Doris Day thing. She used to put Vaseline they used to put it on the camera lens to make her look younger. So
Oh
that's what we
wow.
just did. So hopefully it took a year or two off. So, Raul, we're down to my last questions. What's the, if you could go back and give your 18-year-old self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh wow, that's a great question, and it's something that I would tell myself that you're gonna make mistakes. That's part of the game. Just learn from those mistakes and try to make them better, because people sometimes they'll make a mistake and they'll frown on it. They'll keep on going over that same mistake for years. And I did the same thing. I was saying, oh, I didn't do this correctly. I tried to create a fast food concept. It didn't work. And I was always, oh, I failed. No, you got to move forward. Take what you can, learn from those experiences. Always have your ears to the ground, your eyes open, because you'll never know who you can learn from. There's always people out there that can teach you stuff. Learn from a small kid to the oldest. I mean, it's a wealth of possibilities. So just be ready, listen, and accept whatever happened, whatever fate happened, and move on. That's the most important part. Be able to move on and take over
Okay.
the situation. Yeah.
All right. What's the best bite you've had all week?
Oh, actually, I'm in LA, and I was kind of fortunate. I went to Langer's. if you guys know language. But if you're on the East Coast, you guys are used to having pastrami. So they have pastrami and roast beef. It's called langers in the alley. That was very very delicious. I enjoyed it.
Okay. Um, Two things that must be in your fridge.
Now there's a thing called chamoy. Chamoy is like a syrup, and it's made of tamarind, and you can put that on fruits. So you tell the kids now you gotta eat more fruits, you gotta eat more vegetables. This chamoy is it's not sweet, it's not sugar, it's natural sugar, so to speak. You can dip your fruits and vegetables in, and it tastes really good. And if you look at certain restaurants, they're using it now to rim their drinks, alcoholic and non-alcoholic drinks. They do it on that. They do it on ceviches. They put that on there as well. So it's very good. That along with the tahine. So the second one will be tahine, which gives it a little spice.
Right. Your ultimate culinary fail.
Oh my God. There's one I tell people when you're in the restaurant business, you wear different hats, and all the hats you wear, you think you covered the bases. So this was maybe happened about 15 years ago. I tried to create a hot dog concept, and the concept was called Between the Buns. I went around LA, went to different hot dog stands, getting ideas, did all my homework. So I thought, did all my homework, went in, opened up the restaurant. I was there for 2 months. One thing that I didn't look at, I didn't do my research, was there was a Metro Gold Line project coming through there. And as soon as I opened, 2 months later, the Metro line came in, closed off the traffic, business was over. That was the major fail, but it taught me a lesson. And there's always a silver lining to everything you do. And that silver lining is you have to make sure you turn over every single rock because, and that's the first thing I do. What's coming in? Go to the government, go to the meetings, go to the mixers, go to the all those things where they have government officials that come in. They'll tell you what's going on in the community because that's one thing that I never had considered then. And now I look back, that's the first thing I go over. And I make sure that, I will be able to conduct business as usual. Because it's hard enough to run a restaurant itself, but when there's certain projects going on that you have no control over, then that makes it difficult. That was my biggest failure, but also one of my biggest lessons that I learned to deal with.
Well, that's let's put it this way. You know, if you didn't walk away learning from it, then there's a problem. So
Yeah, that's the hard
it
part.
was an expensive education, but it is giving the basis to do better now. If you wake up tomorrow with a new talent, what would the new talent be?
You know what? I think I would want to be. I tell people the story when I was in high school. I wanted to be a doctor, and the reason why I wanted to be a doctor was I wanted to help people and change their lives. And I think in the it's a little similar to being a restaurateur because restaurateur, I help rekindle memories, how people forget or escape or time travel into a different area. They forget about the problems. And being a doctor, I think it's the same along the same lines. I would like to would have liked to have change people's lives, impact their lives, and a doctor would have been my second choice.
Oh, okay, great. You did do Southern Cal's entrepreneurial program, didn't you?
Yeah, I was at USC. I did the entrepreneur program there, and I remember when I was in class, they asked us questions. The professors did. We were writing a feasibility study and a business plan, and one of the professors asked me, "Oh," he said, "what do you want to do?" And I got up. I said, "I want to open up a restaurant." He goes, "There's three things in life, three certainties in life." He said, "Death, taxes, and restaurant closures." I said, "Whoa!" So, I said, I can control one of them, and that one is a restaurant closure. I can't control death. We can't control taxes. You got to pay them, but you can try to hopefully evade the closure of restaurants that many, it happens. There is. I can see where he was coming from, but I guess what he was trying to tell me was that I got to make sure that I, cover all my bases, so to speak, dot my I's, cross my T's, so that there's very few restaurants that are able to withstand the test of time, and I'm trying to create that with Chalios here in LA and Texas, so that we don't fall victim to those perils.
Well, Raul, you've hit the point in life where you have the kids and relatives running the majority of the restaurants. You sort of oversee it, but you're doing this YouTube Birria world. Uh, and you've done a lot of episodes, and Are you having fun now?
Absolutely. I've always thought of Birria one way. I thought that my way was the only way. But now that I go across the country, at some episodes in LA and now in Texas, there's different types, different cooking. And I'm trying, you learn that, you see the evolve, how it has evolved, how it's fusioning. And I'm being, firsthand. I'm like a kid in a candy store. When a restaurateur, if you're a restaurateur, if you walk into somebody's kitchen, you're amazed. You're always looking at stuff. That's what I do. I'm a kid in a candy store, walking into people's restaurants, hearing their stories. Wonderful. It's absolutely great.
Right. And finally, what didn't I ask you that I probably should have?
Well, I think it just to tell me make people aware of what birria is. Mexican food is one of the fastest growing and most popular foods consumed across the country, and you got to try out, take some challenges, take some chances. Try the goat and lamb. You haven't tried it. We steam cook it. We it's done traditional way, and I think you might enjoy it. And always try new things. That's more important.
Right. I want to thank you so much for giving us some of your time. You're always busy and so appreciate it and wish you continued success. And keep putting out the word about Birria. We
Thank you
need to
so much.
know. We need
Thank
to
you so
eat.
much.
Have a
Thank you.
great time. And I'm just going to go on and give some notices for next week's show. And thank you
Okay.
again.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, everyone. Next week's show will be chef, TV host, and author Dennis Prescott, a world traveler. Today my mouth is not working. World traveler, musician turned chef, inspired by British chef Jamie Oliver. He lost 90 pounds in the process. In 2017, he authored his first cookbook, Eat Delicious, that became a bestseller. From hosting Netflix series Restaurants on the Edge and appearances on the History Channel, The Food That Builds America. His latest cookbook, Cook with Confidence, over 100 inspiring recipes to cook and eat together, hits the shelves September 24th. Always feel free to reach out to me via my email, which is food@jmoreliving.com, or my Instagram at Dara Cooks, or on Facebook. I have a Facebook page called The Food Enthusiast. News, there is a food newsletter that is sent out every Tuesday from J More Living. So you can go to the website, jmoreliving.com, look up at the menu where it says connect, click on that, and you have the option to click in for that weekly newsletter about food. They have recipes, great stories, so take advantage of it. It's free. All our shows are immediately archived in video form on More Living's Facebook page and jmoreliving.com. We truly appreciate it when you share our show with friends and family. Feel free to go back into our archives and enjoy past shows. May your plates always, always remain full. We hope to see you here next Thursday.